Hello everyone and welcome to Creature Archives. Today we are going to explore what happens when two worlds collide, when the anomalous and dangerous universe of the SCP Foundation meets the fantastical and magical realms of tabletop legends. Today we're settling the ultimate showdown between some of fiction's most unkillable creatures, SCP-682, a hard-to-destroy reptile, versus the Tarrasque, the Armageddon engine. When sci-fi horror meets epic fantasy and unkillable meets indestructible, who will come out on top? Let's find out today in this episode of Creature Archives. Before we dive into the battle itself, it's important to establish exactly which versions of these monsters we're using, as well as some of the lore surrounding them. When it comes to SCP-682, things get a little complicated. The world of the SCP Foundation is a collaborative writing project, meaning there isn't a single official canon. Different stories and files portray 682 in a slightly different ways. That said, there's still a general consensus about its core traits, and those are what we'll be working with here. For this battle, we will be using the standard SCP-682 as it appears across the main Foundation wiki entries and test logs, so any interpretation that treats 682 as a joke or a gag entry will be ignored. With that established, let's take a closer look at what 682 actually is, both in terms of its physical appearance and its deeper origins within SCP lore. SCP-682 is often described as a large, vaguely reptilian creature of unknown origin, but that description doesn't begin to capture its true nature. 682 is one of the children of the Scarlet King, a dark deity in SCP lore who embodies chaos, cruelty, and entropy. The Scarlet King isn't just another monster, he is a cosmic force, a being of unimaginable malevolence who seeks the unraveling of reality itself. His children, including 682, are fragments of this apocalyptic essence made flesh. This heritage explains SCP-682's most infamous traits. 682 is able to adapt to survive and counter virtually any scenario or creature. Its body rapidly evolves in real time, adjusting its physiology to counter whatever attempts to destroy it. The more it suffers, the more it learns, and the stronger it becomes. But raw adaptability isn't the only thing that makes 682 so dangerous. What truly sets it apart is its mindset. 682 is a malevolent, destructive being. It doesn't kill to eat or survive, it destroys because it hates life itself. It views every living thing as an enemy, and every attempt to neutralize it only fuels its endless malice. Together, these traits make 682 less of an animal and more of a manifestation of cosmic chaos. It is Apocalypse incarnate, a shard of the Scarlet King's will, forever adapting and forever enduring. Unlike SCP-682, the Tarrasque origins first come from real-world French folklore, long before being adopted into traditional tabletop RPGs. Over the years, its portrayal has shifted dramatically across multiple editions of Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. For our purposes, we'll be using one of these tabletop versions, but the question becomes, which version gives the Tarrasque the strongest chance in this fight? In the earliest tabletop incarnation, the first edition Dungeons & Dragons, the Tarrasque was portrayed as little more than an enormous, incredibly strong dinosaur. It was certainly deadly and could wipe out unprepared adventurers, but it was ultimately mortal and could be defeated with conventional weapons. By D&D 3.5, the Tarrasque had evolved into something far more fearsome and legendary. It became infamous as one of the hardest creatures in the game to permanently kill. Even if a party managed to defeat it in battle, it would simply regenerate unless they had access to extraordinarily powerful magic. But at the end of the day, it could still be killed. Given the right spells and preparation, even the so-called unstoppable monster wasn't truly immortal. In 5th edition, the designers scaled it back. The Tarrasque was transformed into a super powerful kaiju, still enormous and terrifying, but once more vulnerable to conventional means of combat. Its legendary status remained, but it no longer carried the seemingly unkillable aspects that made the 3.5 version so notorious. But the strongest version of the Tarrasque doesn't come from Dungeons & Dragons at all, but rather from my personal favorite tabletop RPG, Pathfinder. Here the Tarrasque is far more terrifying than its D&D counterpart, because it is, for all intents and purposes, immortal. The lore flat out states that nothing can stop its regeneration or kill it. Even obliterating its body doesn't keep it down, it always comes back. And that's because in Pathfinder, the Tarrasque is not merely a monster, it is the spawn of Rovagug, the god of destruction himself. Rovagug was such a dire threat that even rival gods who normally war against one another were forced to unite just to seal him away deep within the world. His hunger and rage are eternal, and the Tarrasque is his most powerful instrument of destruction on the mortal plane. And it's here that we start to see the real parallel. SCP-682 and the Tarrasque aren't just giant unstoppable reptiles, they are avatars of their creator's will. Each is born from a god of ruin, embodying the essence of chaos and annihilation in their own terrifying way. Now that we've met these two unstoppable monsters, I want to tell you about a tool that's been a huge help for me, World Anvil. the sponsor of this video. I've been using World Anvil to run an SCP-inspired Pathfinder campaign with my friends, and it's been incredible. It lets me create and organize character profiles, organizations, and all of the lore in the world. What really stands out for me is the article section. Over 25 detailed templates for everything from locations to magic systems, complete with helpful prompts. It makes world building structured and organized without ever stifling creativity. If you're like me and love making custom monsters, World Anvil has built-in stat block templates for over 100 tabletop RPG systems, including Pathfinder and D&D 5e. I even made a stat block for SCP-682 using it, and it worked amazingly. But what really sets World Anvil apart is its versatility. Whether you're a game master prepping an RPG campaign, a player tracking your character's inventory and journal, a fantasy or sci-fi author managing lore and timelines, or just someone who loves building immersive worlds, World Anvil has tools tailored for you. Interactive maps, custom timelines, manuscript tools, and even family trees, perfect for exploring the evolutionary history of species or mapping out entire civilizations and cultures. If you want to dive into your own epic world building or campaign, use my code CreatureArchives for 51% off any yearly subscription. Just head to worldanvil.com, click the link in the description, and start building your own legends today. With their origins and mythologies laid out, it's time to break them down piece by piece, to see who truly holds the edge. So let's start with the basics, their physical forms. How do SCP-682 and the Tarrasque measure up when it comes to sheer size, strength, and natural weaponry? SCP-682 is a large reptilian creature vaguely resembling a crocodile or lizard. Its default size is generally depicted as approximately 30 feet long and 10 feet tall, though it possesses the extraordinary ability to shed matter to shrink or consume available material to grow, allowing its size to vary drastically. This adaptability makes it a formidable opponent, as it can alter its physical form to overcome threats. The creature's body is covered in tough scaly skin, and it possesses razor-sharp claws and a mouthful of sharp teeth. The Tarrasque in Pathfinder is a colossal reptilian beast, standing approximately 50 feet tall and 70 feet long, with an immensely heavy muscular frame. Its body is covered in a thick spiked carapace, making it highly resistant to damage. It has a massive tail, enormous claws, and a wide toothy maw. The Tarrasque's sheer size and physical power is staggering, capable of knocking down entire buildings with even a single strike. In terms of sheer size and physical power, the Tarrasque has the clear advantage. Its colossal stature and natural weapons make it a devastating force in physical combat, capable of overwhelming most opponents by sheer bulk alone. SCP-682's ability to alter its size, form, and structure gives it versatility, and in theory it could grow to counteract the Tarrasque's raw strength. However, the Tarrasque's immense initial size advantage makes that unlikely. Its brute force, weight, and sheer destructive power could tear into 682 fast enough to keep it from scaling up to match. In a direct contest of physical might, the Pathfinder Tarrasque takes the edge. But raw size and strength aren't everything. In a fight like this, how fast you can move and how well you can adapt your movement could mean the difference between landing a killing blow or being torn apart. This brings us to our next category, mobility. SCP-682 is not only extremely strong and resilient, but also remarkably mobile. In terms of speed, it can consistently react to bullets, outrun combat vehicles, and even dodge or attack helicopters in some accounts. However, one of its most impressive speed comparisons comes from other SCP interactions. It has been described as at least somewhat comparable to SCP-096, the Shy Guy. In terms of speed, 096 has demonstrated the ability to run and swim at absurd speeds, with theoretical maximum speeds reaching around 5,000 miles per hour. While 682 has not explicitly demonstrated these speeds, the fact that it can even trade blows with 096 is incredibly impressive. Beyond sheer speed, 682's adaptability gives it a tremendous advantage in mobility. It can alter its physiology to navigate nearly any environment, growing wings for flight, developing claws or muscular modifications to burrow, or even sprouting webbing and gills to swim. Its smaller default size compared to the Tarrasque also likely makes it more agile in combat and in maneuvering around obstacles. The Tarrasque in comparison is a colossal land-based predator. Despite its massive size, it is capable of moving surprisingly fast for a creature of its bulk, and can cover large distances quickly. Its muscular legs allow it to leap great distances, crushing anything in its path. However, the Tarrasque's mobility is just limited to running and jumping. It can't fly, swim with ease, or burrow. Its enormous frame also makes it less able to make precise maneuvers or dodge attacks, and its size can be a hindrance in confined spaces or against highly agile opponents. While the Tarrasque has notable burst speed and impressive jumping capability, SCP-682 surpasses it in overall mobility. Its ability to react to bullets, outrun vehicles, and even trade blows with a creature as fast as 096 demonstrates far superior reflexes and speed, and its power to adapt for flight, swimming, burrowing, or climbing gives it unmatched versatility across environments. Combined with its smaller size and agility, SCP-682 is far more maneuverable than the Tarrasque in almost any setting, making it the clear winner in the mobility category. While both creatures are infamous for their insane regenerative powers, Regeneration is only part of the equation. Before we cover that in its own category, let's first examine their ability to prevent damage in the first place. When it comes to sheer toughness, SCP-682 is relatively durable, but not unbreakable. Its body has been torn apart, burned, and blasted to pieces during countless termination attempts. And while it always recovers from these attacks, the fact remains that in that moment, it's not invulnerable. This is a fact the SCP Foundation has taken advantage of many times in order to keep it contained, most famously by submerging it in a vat of hydrochloric acid, which while not permanent, has proven effective in keeping it neutralized for extended periods. That said, 682 does possess a set of impressive resistances, many of which stem from its adaptive abilities. While it can be injured in the moment, the creature has repeatedly demonstrated the capacity to evolve countermeasures after the fact, becoming better equipped to handle attacks and effects no matter how strange they are. It has resisted psychic influence, emotional manipulation, and even attempts at transmutation or temporal alteration, tactics that would cripple or outright end most other creatures. Once exposed to these threats, 682 tends to adapt in ways that make them far less effective in future encounters, steadily closing off unconventional options for neutralizing it. When it comes to raw immediate defense, few creatures in fantasy match the Tarrasque. Its body is a living fortress, hide-layered in natural armor so dense and unyielding that most conventional and even magical assaults barely scratch the surface. Artillery, explosives, and enchanted weaponry crash against it with little to no effect, making it nearly untouchable in direct combat. Beyond its sheer physical resilience, the Tarrasque is immune to a staggering number of attack types. Fire, acid, poison, and disease do nothing to it, and it can't be petrified, paralyzed, or even permanently wounded by conventional means. Perhaps most impressively, its scales are known to reflect magical blast and energy attacks back at its assailants, turning an opponent's offense into their own undoing. While SCP-682 can adapt to resist or even become temporarily immune to almost anything, time and time again we see that against powerful attacks like those it would face from the Tarrasque, it is not initially all that resilient and relies heavily on its regeneration and adaptations to stay in the fight. The Tarrasque, on the other hand, is far more difficult to harm. Its thick natural armor and extensive immunities make it nearly impervious to most forms of attack, cementing its status as one of the most defensively unstoppable creatures in all of fantasy. In this category, the Tarrasque clearly holds the edge. If there's one area where 682 completely dominates, it's intelligence. Far from being just a mindless beast, 682 is highly intelligent, cunning, and manipulative. It speaks fluently with Foundation staff, often mocking or threatening them, and has demonstrated a capacity for complex reasoning and problem solving. It has been observed to strategize mid-battle, exploiting weaknesses and containment procedures, luring enemies into traps, and adapting its fighting style as it learns about its opponent. This makes it as much of a mental threat as a physical one, and fighting it is as much about outsmarting it as it is overpowering it. In stark contrast, the Tarrasque is essentially a force of nature rather than a thinker. It is often described as having animal-level intelligence at best, driven purely by hunger and destruction. While it can chase down prey, recognize threats, and act with instinctive ferocity, there's no evidence that it can plan, scheme, or even truly understand its opponent's tactics. The Tarrasque is dangerous because of its sheer power and durability, not because of its cleverness. In fact, its lack of higher reasoning can sometimes work against it, making it predictable and easier to manipulate for anyone smart enough to set a trap, meaning 682 wins this category handedly. And now for the category that defines these monsters, regeneration. SCP-682's regeneration is not just physical healing, it's tied to its deeper, almost cosmic resilience. The creature has shown the ability to come back from complete bodily destruction, including being dissolved by acid, obliterated by weaponry, or even erased by anomalies that should wipe it from existence. For instance, when exposed to SCP-3930, an anomaly that literally erases things from reality, 682 simply endured it, a feat that suggests it may not fully obey the same laws of existence that other beings do. Its regeneration works in tandem with its reactive adaptation. When injured, it doesn't just heal, it often grows back stronger or in a new form to counter what harmed it. Combined with its ability to absorb materials for energy and alter its body at will, 682's regeneration is one of the most terrifying in all of fiction. The Tarrasque regeneration is simpler in concept but no less awe-inspiring. In Pathfinder lore, it is explicitly stated that no attack can permanently stop it. Disintegration, death magic, decapitation, nothing can keep it down. Not even the most potent arcane or divine forces wielded by gods themselves can truly kill this creature. Even if its body is utterly destroyed, it will reconstitute itself in a short time. The most civilizations can hope for is to banish or bury it, buying themselves temporary relief but never achieving a permanent victory. This is one of the few categories where a clear winner just can't be called. The Tarrasque regeneration is absolute. No physical, magical, or divine force can permanently stop it, and even total destruction only delays its inevitable return. SCP-682, on the other hand, possesses regeneration that borders on the metaphysical, allowing it to recover from attacks that defy the laws of reality itself. It can reconstitute itself after being obliterated, adapt to previously fatal threats, and even survive anomalies that erase matter from existence. Both creatures' regenerative abilities are so extreme that conventional measures are essentially meaningless, making them nearly impossible to eliminate. In this category, it's impossible to pick a definitive winner, making Regeneration a tie. And now for the final category, special abilities. As we've already seen, SCP-682's most notable ability is its adaptability. This isn't just a passive mutation, but an active conscious process it seems to control, using it in conjunction with its intelligence to outthink and outlast its opponents. Over the years, containment tests have revealed just how far this adaptability can go. When placed against SCP-173, a statue that only moves and attacks when unobserved, 682 responded by growing dozens of extra eyes all across its body. When struck with high-powered lasers, its skin took on a mirror-like quality, reflecting the beams back at its attackers. And in one case, when its body was sliced into thousands of pieces, it transformed its liquefied remains into a gelatinous predator that continued hunting on its own before reforming into its original body. In addition to this, 682 has also demonstrated adaptations to counter supernatural effects. It was able to replicate the effects of SCP-061, an anomalous mind control signal. It resisted its effects and then emitted a shriek that incapacitated nearby people. And after exposure to SCP-1056, it gained the ability to manipulate its own size at will, and even projected this effect outward, altering the size of those around it. These are just a few of the many ways that 682 has been able to adapt and counter everything thrown at it. The Tarrasque, by comparison, has nowhere near this level of versatility. It is, however, not entirely without its tricks. Its most famous special ability lies in its previously mentioned reflective carapace. Its armored scales can rebound a staggering variety of attacks, from magical energy blasts to ballistic projectiles, effectively punishing enemies who try to harm it from range. On top of this, the Tarrasque is capable of using the spines that line its body as weapons, flinging them at distant foes with devastating force. While the Tarrasque reflective scales and range spines are useful, its toolkit is still relatively narrow. 682, by contrast, possesses an ever-expanding arsenal of adaptations that it has demonstrated again and again in containment breaches and SCP cross-test. Because of this ability to constantly rewrite its own biology to counter new threats, the edge in this category undoubtedly goes to SCP-682. And so, with their abilities and strengths laid out, the only question left to answer is, what would actually happen if these two monsters collided? A medieval city lays in ruin. The Tarrasque towers above buildings, rampaging, its footsteps shaking the very earth. Towers crumble, homes collapse, and the screams of thousands echo across burning streets. Heroes stand against it, but they are broken and bloodied. A barbarian charges forward, greatsword raised high. The blade comes down with all the force of desperation, but it bounces harmlessly off the monster's hide. The Tarrasque turns, jaws opening wide, and a single snap, the barbarian is bitten in half. Nearby, a wizard staggers, staff in hand, eyes wide with horror. He knows they cannot win. Gathering what little strength remains in his battered body, he calls upon every ounce of arcane power, every forbidden word of banishment he knows. The sky itself tears open. A rift yawns wide beside the Tarrasque, pulling at it with the force of another world. The monster digs its claws into the ground, roaring in defiance. But it is not enough. With one last thunderous bellow, the Tarrasque is ripped from reality and cast into the void. Deep within Site-19, SCP-682 slumbers in its containment chamber, its body submerged in a vat of hissing hydrochloric acid. Normally nothing penetrates this prison, no sound, no vibration, but then, a ripple passes through reality. A roar, the sound of collapsing steel. The building shudders, alarms shrieking and walls crumple and containment fails. From the wreckage, SCP-682 rises, acid still steaming from its flesh. It shakes itself free and listens to the chaos. Screams, explosions, something massive moving nearby, and then it sees it. An enormous shape tearing through Site-19, spiked tail reducing steel walls to rubble. The Tarrasque. 682 narrows its eyes. This creature dared to slaughter its captors? That was its right. That was its joy. No one steals that from the hard-to-destroy reptile. The Tarrasque turns, finally noticing its adversary. For a moment, silence. Two apex predators, one born of nightmare and the other of myth, stand face to face. The Tarrasque snarls. 682 only glares. Then with a roar like the end of the world, the Tarrasque charges. A volley of spines shoots through the air, impaling 682 and hurling it backward into twisted concrete. Before it can recover, the monster's jaws clamp down, shredding it into bloody pieces. The Tarrasque chews and turns to leave. But then it hears a voice speak behind it. Disgusting beast. It freezes. Slowly it looks back. From the mangled remains, SCP-682 is already whole again. Limbs have regrown, flesh has knitted, and now its body gleams with thick, jagged scales, armor almost identical to the Tarrasque's own. The reptile flexes its claws. The fight has only just begun. The two titans slam together, claw against claw, teeth against teeth. The ground shatters beneath them, walls crumple like paper, and entire containment wings are leveled in their wake. 682 rips chunks from the Tarrasque flanks, only for the wounds to close instantly. The Tarrasque batters 682 with its tail, impaling it on barbed spikes. But the reptile regenerates quickly. Again and again they maul, bite, and rend each other, each strike powerful enough to annihilate lesser creatures. But against each other they are meaningless. Hours pass. The battlefield is a ruin. Escaped anomalies have scattered into the night. The Foundation is in shambles. Still, the monsters fight. Neither slows, neither yields. Finally, 682 halts mid-strike. Its eyes narrow. It understands now. They are locked in stalemate. Neither can destroy the other. If nothing changes, this battle will rage for eternity. That was unacceptable. 682 begins to retreat, its steps deliberate. The Tarrasque roars, enraged at the thought of prey fleeing, and charges after it. Blow after blow tears at the walls as they move deeper into the ruins, until 682 leads it into the hollow crater of a collapsed underground chamber. There, 682 stops, its body convulses, muscles splitting, flesh twisting. From its throat spills a black viscous substance, tar-like but alive, writhing as though it has purpose. The liquid spreads fast, bubbling and hissing as it devours the chamber floor, expanding into a massive anomalous tar pit. The Tarrasque doesn't hesitate. It lunges forward, its jaws close around 682's torso, only for the tar to surge upward, clinging to its face, to its throat, and to its eyes. The monster thrashes, flinging spines and tearing through concrete, but the black substance only hardens and spreads. Every wound the Tarrasque regenerates is instantly smothered by the tar seeping into its wounds. Every breath it tries to draw is choked off as its body is filled with this strange substance. Its roar grows weaker, slower. It sinks to its knees, and then collapses, buried beneath a suffocating tide. Its body still twitches, its regeneration still burns, but the tar clamps down with relentless hunger, locking it in a cycle of suffocation and pain. Never enough to kill it, but enough to render it helpless, trapped forever in endless unconsciousness. 682 stands over the pit, blood still dripping from its scarred flesh. Its rival lies bound, silenced, and defeated. With a snarl of contempt, it turns away and says to itself, "Pathetic." And there you have it. That's my take on how this clash might go down. Realistically, there's no way either of these beasts could ever truly kill the other. It's written into both of their lores that death simply isn't an option. At best, they can be banished, contained, or temporarily neutralized, but never destroyed. Arguably, if you could somehow strike down their creators, the Scarlet King in SCP lore, or Rovagug in Pathfinder, then maybe their avatars would fall with them. But let's be honest, taking on either of those entities is an even harder task than facing these monsters themselves. That being said, when it comes to a head-to-head, I think SCP-682 is the only one of the two that can possibly take the win. Its vastly superior intelligence, combined with the near-infinite possibilities granted by its adaptive abilities, means that given enough time, it could almost certainly figure out a way to incapacitate the Tarrasque for a long amount of time, if not permanently. The Tarrasque is a raw, unstoppable force, but 682 is the same, but intelligent and far more versatile. And in a battle of eternity, that's the kind of difference that would matter. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want to see more SCP and Pathfinder or D&D related content. Also, if you'd like to take your support a step further, consider becoming a YouTube member. Members not only help keep this channel going, but also get access to early videos, behind the scenes info on upcoming projects, and the members only Discord where you can hang out with me and the rest of the community. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you all in the next video.